Lincoln, they blend your old-school barber feel with your favorite watering hole. Sink into a comfy chair, unwind with a complimentary drink, and let their master barbers handle the rest. It's not just grooming, it's an experience. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, needing to get cleaned up before family comes to town, or just need a little time to yourself, Scissors and Scotch Lincoln delivers sharp style every time. Book now at Scissors and Scotch in Lincoln, just south of 30th and Yankee Hill Road.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
Oh, honey, I love the first few months of a new year.
Why?
I get a chance to shovel.
You hate to shovel.
Not snow, cash. The Nebraska Lottery's Cash Blast promotion is back. Buy a 2x2 ticket and get a voucher. Enter online for a chance to win a $5,000 or $500 weekly prize. And if your winning voucher is from a 7-day draw ticket, your prize is doubled.
Great. It snowed last night. Here's a shovel.
But
consider it practice.
2x2 top prize odds are 1 in 105,000.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Diode Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Diode Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diode Tech online at diodetech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
Hi, this is Doug Keller. When I started my first little body shop in Eustis back in 1979, I never dreamed it would grow to 8 locations and over 100 employees in Nebraska. I knew then, as I know now, that if you treat people right, they will keep coming back and also send their friends, which is why our tagline is, where our customers send their friends. I guess there are many things in life that change, but the golden rule never does.
The most recommended Eustis Body Shop. That's who we are.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating,
and Electrical.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Welcome into the post-game post-up. Nebraska basketball just finished up another game. Hustle down to the block and get position.
Shot clock to 7. Hoiberg. Missed. Got his own rebound. Right back up. Missed it. And there he is. Garcia How big has he been down the stretch for this Nebraska ball club?
10 points all in the second half. Now the lead back to 3.
Join 93.7 The Ticket to break down the best players and key moments from today's action.
Sanford a couple of steps from behind the line. And now Lawrence from the corner. He hits. And another eruption from all the red in Lincoln. Not even close. Now Creighton has not been able to hit anything. 0 for 8 from distance. Prager gets some space. He connects.
Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Here we gotta go.
Now to 5. Hoiberg kicks it out. Lawrence for the win.
It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
All right, welcome in. Husker Hoops postgame show. The Nebraska Cornhuskers lose on the road in what we can deem a rock fight, 52-57. They get outscored in the first half and they tie in the second half. But that first half, too much of a detriment for the Huskers to come back. Plenty of things to get into for the keys to the game and how it broke down why they did. You guys are welcome to join in. 402-464-5685. I can see the streams lighting up on the text as well. Those are great. Facebook, YouTube, X, Channel 961. I want to get your guys' thoughts more than myself and Nick Wyman before we get to Austin Orman and Nick Sainer. They're going to be joining us both together once they get done with that press conference. Before we get to your thoughts and ours as well, let's shout out our first sponsor, Union Bank and Trust. Get a great rate on 6, 12, or 24-month CD with Union Bank and Trust. Learn more at ubt.com. Again, real easy, ubt.com. Like I said, I want to get into this text line. I want to get into the stream text as well. But Nick Wyman, quick, just give me your thoughts. Another really tough loss for the Cornhuskers on the road.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa looked like the team who wanted to win this game because Iowa is a team who, I mean, you want to win every game, but Iowa at this rate, we just chatted before we went on, Iowa needs quality wins. They are sitting on the 8-9 seed right now in most bracketology. If the season ends today with a couple weeks left in the season, Iowa needed a quality win, and they had opportunities in front. They have Nebraska twice here at the end of the season. They have Wisconsin. They have Ohio State, and they have Michigan. They have all the chances in front of them to add to their resume, and this was step one for them. And credit to them. I mean, it wasn't pretty. 57-52 in this day and age of basketball is very hard to see, especially in college. Shot clocks down to 30 seconds to 35 seconds a couple years ago, and somehow we're still getting games that are 57-52 in the year of 2026. But yeah, Iowa comes out with the win. Nebraska does not shoot the ball well. One guy, Price Stanford, the only one in double figures. I get out rebounded against a team against Iowa. Iowa came out and kind of established the pace from the get-go, and that's kind of how the game kind of went. And Nebraska was kind of on their heels throughout, and Iowa just always had an answer. It's weird to see because a lot of Nebraska fans were not really worried with the stretch they had with Iowa twice in the next month, USC, UCLA. But those are tricky teams. These are teams who have to win games against a team like Nebraska because March is coming quick. You flip the calendar's flipping the March soon, and Iowa, I don't know. Maybe this is a rematch come Big Ten tournament time. And
it's a rematch for the last regular game of the season.
Exactly.
Right? So you're going to get them guaranteed back another time already.
Exactly.
And you talked about how important it was for them. They stormed the court. Big old hoopla. Go Iowa Hawkeyes. They had a lot of fun out there.
They had a lot of fun tonight. I mean, the football team was there. And
presenting the Heroes Trophy. I mean, this was just gravy on top of gravy. And unfortunately, we're on the wrong end of it. Quickly, I want to go through these key stats, and then we got this thing filling up, as you can imagine.
Of course. Yep.
So field goal percentage, Nebraska, 41%. Fine, but the three-point percentage really hurt them. 21%. They were 5 of 24 rebounds. Another tough differential. 24-37 in 12 offensive boards for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Only 2 for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Assists, Nebraska had 10. Iowa only 5. Turnovers split there. Even both had 12. Nothing else really stands out a whole lot. Points in the paint, Nebraska actually won 26-18. But again, unfortunately, we're going to have the rebounding conversation again. And then we got this one off of YouTube. Defense on Sturts in the first half was poor, and rebounding was again our Achilles heel. No wrong statement in that, unfortunately.
All Nebraska's was 3-20 all time coming into tonight in Iowa City. Make it 3-21. And Iowa, this was all It's everything that Nebraska fans don't like about Iowa. You go to the fall, Iowa always gets the last laugh in the football season. And Iowa has a whole hoopla, like you said, about that. They had the football team in their jerseys. They had the football team dancing with the cheerleaders at halftime for a little,
I thought it was homecoming for a second there because they had the cheerleaders wearing the white jerseys and the players wearing the black jerseys. I'm trying not to let my blood boil too much, but this one meant a lot. Just way this team's kind of been looked at through the slip. And I didn't want to call it a slip because I was like, look at the losses. 3 top 15 teams.
Yeah.
And then you bounce back and you beat Northwestern by convincing margin. But people are going to look at this game. And Nebraska's going to be fine. There's going to be a lot of negativity after a tough loss like this. They're going to have another chance for Iowa in the regular season. They're going to have the Big Ten tournament. And as long as they're playing in March and they can win that first March Madness game, that's the conversation that we'll hopefully be looking forward to. This one just stings because it's Iowa and for very obvious reasons. 8194 chimes in and says, I'm just going to say this straight out. The refs stole 3 possessions at least in the last 5 minutes of the game. I know the one you're referring to with rink mass, certainly, where they called it a moving screen. He says, however, you can't shoot one of forever in the second half from 3 and win a game. Can give up offensive rebounds. It's poor shooting and rebounding.
5 of 24 from the 3-point line. A team that's wants to shoot the 3 at a high rate with guys like Price Stanford, guys like Jamarcus Lawrence. Ring Mass gets his fair share. Hoiberg, Frager, Jacobson, you name it. 21%. And this was the kind of game this was a dream scenario for Iowa, the way Nebraska played. This is how they wanted the game to play. This is how they wanted Nebraska to show up like this. And Iowa was just a motivated team. And like I said, they needed this win badly because the opportunities were kind of slipping. Like if Iowa would have lost this game and the Wisconsin game, Ohio State, they could have been looking at like a 19-12 entering the Big Ten tournament. And I don't know if that's good enough to get into the tournament for the Hawkeyes, just because if you're, not around 20 wins and you're near that 13-14 loss mark, but now you have a quality win over a top 10 team at the time in Nebraska, Nebraska's still 22-4. Good teams slip up in college basketball. I will say that. So, look at Iowa State last week. Iowa State loses to TCU. Not a great Big 12 team, not a bad Big 12 team. They're kind of like an Iowa. They're kind of treading water. They're respectable. Iowa State goes on a couple days later, beats Kansas, and then yesterday beat Houston. Slip-ups happen in college basketball. And Gonzaga against Portland. Gonzaga hasn't lost since.
Yeah,
I'm not comparing, the West Coast Conference to the Big Ten, but good
slip-ups happen.
Slip-ups happen.
Unfortunately, it just hurts more when it's a rival. So
100%.
That's why you're going to get a little bit extra flavor on these texts. But, there's also a little bit of truth in a lot of these. Let's get to Kevin in Southwest Lincoln on the text line. Says, I can see us going anywhere from 3 to 6 seed in the Big Ten at this point. Team is definitely trending downward, but at least no blowout losses yet. He says, lose to Penn State on Saturday and all bets are off with 2 tough games in Los Angeles afterwards. He also says, bottom line is that Big Ten teams are figuring us out. No depth and poor rebounding too. Barely playing like a top 20 team in 2026. The one part I will say, you're never as bad as you think you are, but you're also never as good as you think you are. And I think we're totally seeing both ends of the spectrum because we were really good. And I think maybe people thought we were better than what we were. And now with some of these losses, I think people think that we are worse than what we truly are. I think we're somewhere in that middle. I think this is a much better team than years prior, obviously, with that win total. You look at the losses, they're not really all that bad, except this one sticks out a little bit. But to his point, where I think he is right, you're seeing the script for Nebraska. And I brought that up at the beginning. Play physical, and if the refs allow that physicality, well, that's favor you. And Nebraska's shown that they have a weakness when it comes to securing rebounds, and in particular on the offensive glass. We give up a lot of extra opportunities, and we allow for teams like Iowa or Purdue, when they are having bad shooting nights, to stay within the game because we're just going to keep giving them opportunities.
There was a lot of foul trouble early on. Like Jamarcus Lawrence had 2 fouls.
Yeah, Brink Mass fouled him up quickly.
I was curious at that point. Nebraska had been running the 7-man rotation, and that's fine. But I was curious maybe because Leo Curtis wasn't on the availability report. He was active. Jared Garcia, I was like maybe they plug him in. Maybe he can get something, get a shot to go down and get some momentum going. But you didn't see any of them. You saw just the 7 guys: Frager, Jacobson, Hoiberg, Lawrence, Mass, Stanford, and Birkengel. You didn't see Garcia. You didn't see Curtis. Maybe because Curtis, did a couple weeks ago, he played in that Michigan game. And
he was effective, I thought.
He scored a couple points and got a nice little, he was, a tall body out there. Just go out there, grab rebounds, put the putbacks in.
But for being all, as lanky as he is, he actually held his own pretty well. Against Michigan. I didn't see him getting bullied around. Unfortunately, the way I've seen in this Purdue game and now this Iowa game.
I think what frustrates everybody the most is just, I don't know, the rebounding is just like something that it's basketball 101. Put a body on somebody after a shot, and teams have been able to kind of exploit that with Nebraska. And Iowa's not the biggest team out there. Like, Nebraska went toe-to-toe with them, size for size with them. But Iowa's just able to out-rebound them. 57-52 final score, rock fight. It was just kind of one guy who beat Nebraska, too. Look at Sturtz had 25 of the 57 points. And that's what Iowa wanted. Iowa wanted one guy to kind of control it, and he was going to be the guy to put the ball in the basket for the Hawkeyes, and he was able to do that. 8 of 22 from the floor. Didn't shoot the ball well. Really nobody really shot the ball well in this game, but Iowa just did it more effectively and was able to kind of just hang around and then pull away right in the end. And Nebraska didn't do themselves any favors the way they shot the ball. If you're shooting 21% from three, you're probably not winning a lot of games.
Yeah, well said there. And, we're getting a lot of comments about the officiating. But some of the other texters point, the officiating isn't always great. But I thought you still can't let it be an excuse for you not to rebound. You got to get in there.
That can't be an excuse every game. Like, I get it. Like, I personally wish refs were perfect. And in some world, every sport, not just college basketball and football, it's gonna happen. But what's next? I think is the motto you go for. What's next? Control what you can control. And you just didn't put the ball in the basket, didn't rebound, and that's just what it comes down to. You only scored 52 points against an Iowa team that this is what they wanted this game to be like.
That's the part that kind of is also unfortunate. I don't think Iowa wanted to be this bad offensively either.
No,
this was an ugly game for Iowa, but we were just a little bit uglier, and that's the part where it's like this was a very winnable game. Did the officials help? That's your opinion. I think I'm with most listeners, though. I thought it was questionable at times, but it wasn't enough to say Nebraska won the game because of the officials. They lost the game because of rebounding, snuck around as a big problem again. And then the slow starts to games. I don't know what that is with Nebraska, but we've had an awful trend as of late, starting off games really slow. You look at the Purdue game, 1-14 start. In this game, it was like Nebraska a little bit early, and then it was a 13-minute scoring drought in that first half. You scored just a little bit there. This is a different ball game, but a 13-minute scoring drought is just brutal. And again, that's where I think some people are right on this text line saying that other teams have kind of figured out a good way to scout against Nebraska's offense. And, with Rink Mast, if he's not able to stretch the floor, we're really getting into that rebounding problem again. They kind of coincide with each other because Rink Mast isn't really demanding that same amount of respect that he was earlier in the season. So those bigs, when he's out there, they're not nearly as concerned as what they once used to be, and they can just kind of sit down around and try to collect that, collect boards.
Nebraska's been a team too. Like there's Northwestern, that game was 28-27 at halftime, and most people said, okay, Nebraska's going on a little bit of run in the second half, and they're going to win. The 4-minute spurt comes, guys hit some big shots, and Nebraska's got a double-digit lead just like that. Seen that in a couple of games. Minnesota, Nebraska was down in that game. 4-minute spurt, pull away, win that game. Washington, kind of the same way in that one too. There wasn't that tonight. And that scoring, if you're going to go on a scoring drought, and Iowa, like I said, this was the perfect script for an Iowa Hawkeyes basketball game. And Austin, me talked about that earlier today in Old School. Iowa wanted this game to be ugly. They wanted this game. I feel like we're talking about a football game here with Iowa because this is like the same exact formula that Iowa football wants. Mm-hmm. And this is their first ranked win for Iowa since 2024. And they needed it. And Nebraska, this just hurts them. They'll probably be in that 4 seed spot now in bracketology, I would assume. I don't think it's anywhere to fall yet. The sky is not falling. Like, Iowa is not as bad as people see. Like, they have 18 plus wins on the season. They're going to make the big dance more than likely now. There's, if they lose to a Penn State or a Maryland, then maybe I'd be concerned. That's when I would maybe push the button.
Yeah, we got some callers chiming in here as well. So let's go ahead and take our first caller. Again, we got nobody screening it back there. So if you're calling in, turn down your radio, be patient, and we'll ask you who you are when you hop on. Let's bring in the first caller. You're listening to the Husker Hoops postgame show. Got myself, Nick Wyman. Who are we speaking to, and what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, this is Mark in Lincoln.
What's on your mind, man?
Yeah, I have had this feeling for the last 2+ weeks that this 7-man rotation is finally starting to catch up with this team. This is a team that looks fatigued. When you look at the rebounding, when you look at the turnovers, particularly not tonight as much as the last two games, when you begin to look at just the lack of intensity at times, I think you're seeing a team that is tired carrying a 7-man rotation. There's no Jared Garcia. He's nowhere to be found, and he hasn't looked good when he was in, so that's obviously the reason why. So you really don't have that 8th or 9th guy. I mean, you look at Iowa; they did run 8. Both teams are running probably 9 or 10, and we've relied on 7. And so it's concerning as they go down the stretch how they're going to be able to get the intensity back, particularly on the boards, as they head into the stretch of the regular season, as they head into the Big Ten tournament, and of course as they head off to postseason. I'm not sure I understand how we're going to be able to make this work with a 7-man rotation. I just was interested in your perspective on that.
No, it's a great call. We'll go ahead and let him go there, but I think he makes a great point. We'll just go through the minutes, right? And everything he's talking about. I'm talking about being gassed and, is it effort or guys just simply flat out tired? We'll go through the minutes here. So Berke Berjutengel in this one actually only played at 21 minutes, but then you get to Price Sanford. He played 37, Rink Mast with 32, Jamarcus Lawrence with 28, and Sam Hoiberg with 36. Just two guys off the bench. Prager with 24, Cale Jacobson with 22. And then when you take a peek at the Iowa Hawkeyes bench, they had 3 guys come off the bench. They had 22, 8, and 24 minutes. There might be some. I mean, how much do you think is guys being fatigued out there? Because it would be great if you had a guy like Garcia that you trusted, or if Leo Curtis that you trusted, or especially in situations like this where you feel like maybe you're not getting the best out of Rink Mast or Berke Berry, someone that you can sub in there for the other, get some rest, and just he's got some fouls to give, worst case scenario, and go out there and be a problem.
No, thank you, Mark, for calling. I see his point. I'm just surprised we didn't see a guy like Jared Garcia or Leo Curtis tonight at all. It's a game where you're trying to find some kind of flow, some kind of spark, and you didn't see them at all. Like, we've seen Curtis in a game against Michigan. Like you said, I'm on the same boat with you. I didn't think he looked lost out there against Michigan. He got kind of thrown into the fire.
Right.
And big body out there, get out there and get a rebound. And, he made some points. He made some baskets. I think it's more maybe mentally fatigued because you're going into an environment like Iowa. This is a big game. And maybe some of those guys were kind of rattled. I mean, it wasn't a sellout completely. I'm just curious how they go from here, because you feel this feeling now. You have to wipe the slate clean to this weekend because you have Penn State, who's a team who has played the top of the Big Ten tough. Is their record great? No. But you're coming off a loss like this. You better come to play, or teams like Michigan played Michigan close in December. There are Big Ten basketball. You have to come to play not only physically, but also mentally. I don't know, but Iowa got the last laugh again against Nebraska. Story as old as time.
They've been laughing at us a lot.
It's a story as old as time, Harrison.
Unfortunately, it's been a story of most of my livelihood here. So let's get to a couple of texts. I'm going to read these back to back, and I'm going to see if you can appease the fan base, because I don't know if they're in the same room. 7021 and 1010 both chime in. The sky is falling. This is a bad loss. The sky is falling. We're finding out we're really not very good.
What were they? I mean, they might be
two different texters.
Might be same phone, same guy with the same phone. Two different numbers. Two different numbers. No, I would not push the panic button. Iowa is.
I'm with you there. I know this one hurts, but I'm with you.
It hurts. They're a rival. Your conference rival. Good teams slip up in college basketball. You see it all the time. I mentioned Iowa State last week. Did that TCU game end their season? No, they go back and beat a team like Kansas and Houston. They still have a lot of more quality teams in the Big 12 conference like BYU and Arizona still left on their schedule. Good teams slip up and run into traps. And this was one of them. And they ran into the Iowa Hawkeye trap in a 57-52 loss. Don't push the red button. 22-4. This did not end the season. It's not an elimination game. There's more games ahead.
Unfortunately, I have to keep saying it. I know this one stings, and there's plenty of things to critique and plenty of things to get into, but it's not March.
Yep.
So there's still more basketball, and we'll be back up for it, especially when these guys come back to the vault. We'll get to see them again, at least in the regular season. Of course, Big Ten tournament, who knows how that one shapes out, and then March Madness. So we looks like got Austin Orman, Nick Samert, in the lobby. So we'll throw it to break here. Those guys will join you next. Husker Hoops postgame show. Here's runs on the ones and twos. We got Nick Wyman, who'll be taking off. A little break here. Austin Orman, Nick Sainer, they'll be coming your way next.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Diode Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Diode Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diode Tech online at diodetech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
If you've been around Lincoln for more than a few years, you've heard of Dewey's Computer Service. We've been fixing computers for nearly 30 years. Now, we're Wingman IT, and we take care of all the things that go buzz, beep, or ding for your business. Our team of support engineers take care of everything from computers and servers to business phones, network cabling, firewalls, and most importantly, IT security. We take care of technology so you can focus on running your business. Call us or visit us at wingmanit.com.
It's the two-fingered wave on a gravel road. It's letting the kids take dad's truck to prom. It's Friday nights under the lights of a hometown football field. Eustace Body Shop knows small towns. It's where our values are rooted. We treat our people right, and in turn, they treat you, our customer, right. And we give back to our communities. Not much more small town than that. Eustace Body Shop, small town service, big city technology.
The most recommended Eustace Body Shop. That's who we are.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
Imagine starting your day with a computer glitch that leaves you feeling stuck, frustrated, and unable to get your work done. You have 1,000,001 things to get done today, and waiting for the tech issue to solve itself isn't one of them. It's time to let Hamilton handle the tech so you don't have to. We help businesses across the state spend more time on what they do best and less time frustrated with office technology. As the official business IT partner of the Huskers, we're focused on providing custom solutions that set you up for success now and in the future. Connect with us today at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100, or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Gentlemen, are you ready for something beyond the ordinary haircut? At Scissors and Scotch Lincoln, they blend your old school barber feel with your favorite watering hole. Sink into a comfy chair, unwind with a complimentary drink, and let their master barbers handle the rest. It's not just grooming, it's an experience. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, needing to get cleaned up before family comes to town, or just need a little time to yourself, Scissors and Scotch Lincoln delivers sharp style every time. Book now at Scissors and Scotch in Lincoln, just south of 30th and Yankee Hill Road.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas, and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call
John Henry's. 435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
And electrical.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7. Basketball on the Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome in to Iowa City. It is Nebraska men's basketball postgame here on The Ticket. Austin Orman, Nick Sainer with you from Iowa City. Big thanks to Harrison and Nick Wyman for holding things down in the studio. Thanks as well to our great partners making Nebraska Hoops postgame possible. Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, as well as Jack Russell with Farm Bureau Financial Services. As always, 402-464-5685. Still plenty of people milling around Carver Hawkeye Arena. Nick and I can hang out for a little while here. A 5-point margin is all it took for Iowa to beat Nebraska. Nick, I think just off the postgame presser that we just got back from, I think there are really, two main takeaways. That it was a physical game, sometimes legally so, other times illegally so, and Nebraska missed opportunities. Fred Hoiberg said that, and I don't think he's just trying to deflect from what the story's been, and a lot of times in the comments and the text so far, it was a poorly officiated game. I've come on this post-game show time after time this year and tried to give the Stripes the benefit of the doubt. Hard for me to do that today in a lot of cases. There are at least 4 missed calls at some pretty crucial junctures that went against Nebraska, and it built up to that. It wasn't all that it was. While that's true, though, I do think Fred Hoiberg's right in that Nebraska had plenty of opportunities to hit the big shot to take the lead or extend a lead. Nebraska was unable to make those plays, and ultimately 5-point margin in favor of the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate night here at in Iowa City because, like you said, right, the things that Nebraska can control were some of the stuff on offense and their ability to kind of get open, hit shots. We saw them kind of run by and miss some good layup opportunities in the first half, right? Like those are things that when you're talking about a 5-point game can come back and hurt you in the end. And they start to have big red flashing lights, when you lose a game by just 2 possessions or so. It was very obvious. I would have loved to ask Fred a little bit more in the post-game presser, but it was pretty obvious that he was not in a great mood to talk about some things. But I thought, Nebraska, I see a lot of text about is Nebraska able to handle the physicality? There was a lot here that Nebraska, even when this place got rocking, and it wasn't a full crowd, but it was a loud crowd. Even when this place got rocking, I still was impressed at times about Nebraska's poise, but unfortunately just couldn't find the bottom of the bucket when they needed to the most.
Nebraska got down by 10 there in the first half. And then we were sitting next to each other here on press row. And I mentioned Nebraska should probably try to go 2 for 1. They do at the end of the first half. They get the layup from Hoiberg. They get a stop. And then Cale Jacobson hits the buzzer beater 3 from one of the logos on the side of the court that we were sitting on. And then, Nebraska and Iowa went back and forth a little bit. Iowa struck first at a halftime. Nebraska found ways to get the game tied, take the lead. I don't think Nebraska ever led by more than 3 in this one. Yeah, when it was 12-9. Nebraska came out fine. Nebraska didn't come out and, bury Iowa, which you're not going to do with a veteran, mature team like Iowa has, the way that they play. I didn't think Nebraska was good enough early. They let things get away from them in the middle of the first half. And if we're looking for the on-the-court player-based reasons that Nebraska lost this game, I think it's officially a concern now, Nick. Nebraska continues to get beat up physically, and I think it's a mental issue, which might sound paradoxical to some people. This was not a big Iowa team. This was not a big front court. Iowa did just seem to want it more, which is crazy. That's all rebounding comes down to. I'm not going to say Nebraska didn't play with effort, but Nebraska was the bigger team in this one. They got smoked on the boards, 37-24, out offensive rebounded 12-2. And in a game that you lose by 5 points, You give up, you're -4 in second chance points. You get outscored 8-4 there. Both teams turn the ball over 12 times. Nebraska's only able to convert 12 Iowa turnovers into 3 points, whereas Iowa takes 12 Nebraska turnovers and turns them into 13 points. For a team that Fred Hoiberg continues to say needs to do the little things well, in a lot of big picture ways, Nebraska has fallen flat in those little things, be it rebounding, be it just the go get the ball factor, and not winning these games on the margins, with points off of turnovers, in ways like that. Nebraska's just come up short now 4 of the last 5 times.
Now, this is where I will say, and not to blame officiating on this, but I do think that you can have this conversation maturely and rightfully so while bringing in the officiating, because we know Nebraska, they strive and they thrive to turn those turnovers into fast break opportunities, right? Transition opportunities. Even what we noticed at times, and I'm more speaking about the second half in this case, is Nebraska loves to, off of makes as well, to run the floor, try to catch the defense on their heels and get an easy bucket, whether that's a 2 or a 3. And the way that this one was called, it was so choppy. And this speaks not just at fault, to a negative of Nebraska, but also to a negative of Iowa. Like, neither team was really able to get into a rhythm, and that's why it felt like such a chunky, gross, disgusting game.
And Iowa thrives in those more than Nebraska.
Yes.
Nebraska's found its way to win a couple of them, but this is an Iowa style of game. It was played how Iowa wanted it to go. And on that point, on the reffing, right, the first half kind of devolved a little bit. There was a moment there in the second half, Nebraska did start getting a few calls, and then it felt like from that point on, Nick, Nebraska's up 3-0 in fouls. Iowa's fouled thrice, Nebraska not once. It kind of felt like, okay, we got to call something before this looks really out of hand. And I think that continued. Nebraska, did a good job for the most part of fighting through it, but, it adds up throughout the course of the game. Nebraska, again, only goes 7 guys deep and didn't play the bench a whole lot at times. It all snowballed on Nebraska to the point that you're left pointing to a game once again, lost on the margins.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we're starting to, not that we're curious about rotations and things like this at this point of the season. However, I think we did continue to learn that in crucial moments and in crunch time, they don't trust Jared Garcia right now. And there was a moment, obviously in Nebraska, it was a wider margin in the later stages of the first half. We know how staunch and how strict Fred Hoiberg is usually on his 2 fouls, sit him for the rest of the first half kind of thought process. And instead of going to Jared Garcia in the later stages of the first half, they chose to put Rink Mast back in with 2 fouls. Now, Rink is, supremely more efficient and more experienced offensively. If Nebraska needed buckets, like they could have been playing matchups, there's that piece. And that's one of the things I would have liked to talk to Fred about and ask him about, but we just didn't get the opportunity. But that also, I think, was something that kind of showed me, they truly might not expect to play Jared Garcia a whole lot here in crunch time.
Let's go to our Starter Heyman Jewelers text line, 402-464-5685. Dan from Canopy says, bottom line, the Big Ten needed Iowa to get this win. It doesn't really hurt Nebraska. Big Ten wants as many as they can get to the dance. It was a ref show. Iowa needed this for seeding. They played their way, more safely into the field. This meant more in terms of seeding for Nebraska. Let me throw this out there, though, Nick. Nebraska's only losses have been, to ranked teams or borderline ranked teams 100%. In Iowa, who's missed some chances against ranked teams before. So good for Iowa. You credit them for the way that they came out and played. They needed it in a big way. Nebraska would have really liked to have had it. Nebraska has the chance for get back against Iowa coming up on senior night on the Pinnacle Bank Arena floor. But Nick, this is one that we talk about from time to time in these rivalry matchups. We know that Nebraska and its head coaches are a never too high, never too low sort of bunch, right? And that's fine. I think that's commendable in a lot of ways. But when you continue to hear that Nebraska maybe didn't want it enough, or Nebraska got out physicaled, and we'll get into that point in just a little bit here, this game means a lot to Fred Hoiberg, who went to Iowa State. There got to be some venom there. This game means a lot to Bryce Sanford, who I thought did a good job keeping his head and his calm through contact. And a guy that doesn't create much of his own offense most of the time, needs guys to create for him. I thought Bryce Sanford handled the moment well. But at some point in your Nebraska, regardless of program, when do you take a game like this personal? Nebraska football hasn't taken Iowa personal, at least it hasn't reflected. Nebraska baseball hasn't taken Creighton personally in far too long. And, it's great that Nebraska, maintained its poise and played level-headed. And it's maybe in some ways harder to get fired up like that in a game on the road. But at some point, you got to get sick and tired of other teams wanting it more, of other teams taking it to you physically. We talked about that in our pregame breakdown. Can Nebraska get back to acting like the bully? I'm not sure Nebraska went into its shell, but either Nebraska, just didn't get fired up for this game in the exact same way that Iowa did, and it played to Iowa's advantage, or Nebraska wasn't physically able to overcome some of the things that led to Iowa's advantages, and it ends up in a 5-point loss for the Huskers.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell fans, number one, how to feel. Number two, I'm not going to sit here and try to pour Kool-Aid on this and say, hey, guys, don't worry. Everything's going to be just fine. And Nebraska's got 2 games that you feel like they can have a good chance at winning, and then they go on the West Coast trip, and then they come back home against Iowa. 3 of their last 5 regular season games are going to be at home, right? Because while I say that, I also do want to put things into perspective for Nebraska basketball fans, is that your 4, once again, here on February 17th, your 4 losses this season are to 4 NCAA tournament teams, and 3 of them are to top 15 programs in the country. And one of those losses is actually a team that came on the road into the very same floor that you just lost in and demolished Iowa in front of a larger and sellout crowd. So it's nothing to scoff at. I want to make that very clear. Now, this is certainly a different feel after a road loss than the Michigan game, because you could point to a couple of things at Michigan and say, all right, they were depleted roster-wise because of things out of their control. The things you're speaking to, Austin, and this is where, once again, we talked about it on the pregame conversation, things that they can control. And it's the edge. It's the mental toughness. We heard Fred Hoiberg say it in the postgame. It's just the want to. It's the will. And that's where, when you get into March and adversity starts to set in, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'd be able to do it. But we've seen this very same roster and this very same core do it in December, in parts of January, even in parts of February. Now it's just in the stretch time, are they going to be able to do it consistently?
We'll talk more about this on the other side. We'll have another segment here from Carver Hawkeye. Keep your thoughts coming. We have our YouTube stream and Facebook, Twitter streams open. We also have our Sartor Heyman Jewelers text line open for you. Jason, we see you. Derek in a car, we see you. Cubsker 8907. We will get to your thoughts coming out of break. He's Nick Sainert. I'm Austin Norman. Harrison Arden's back in our 93.7 The Ticket studios. One more segment of Husker Hoops postgame after this on The Ticket.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
A membership with John Henry's will fast-track you to front-of-the-line service, seasonal tune-ups, and far fewer unexpected moments. That means no breakdowns, no waiting on a call, and no nonsense. It's consistent care that prevents small issues from turning into big bills. Join the Comfort Club and get VIP treatment 365 days a year with 24-hour priority response, member-only discounts, and peace of mind on your home's most expensive systems. Call John Henry's.
John Henry's Plumbing, heating and air.
And electrical.
At Doane University, we build leaders, and that means your success and achievements come first. Now is the time to get a glimpse into living and learning at Doane University through a personalized in-person or virtual visit. We know once you experience Doane, you'll see why it's a place where you can achieve your goals and shape your future. Schedule your personal campus visit today at doane.edu/visit.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines. Now boarding. Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
If you're a homeowner or a business owner, you have a lot of projects, and no one has an unlimited budget or time. Sunbelt Rentals makes all jobs less stressful with no need to purchase large equipment or hire a crew. You can do it yourself with rentals and everything from aerators and power rakes for spring yard work to stump grinders, concrete mixers, tile saws, and more. Check out their inventory in Lincoln, north of Cornhusker Highway on 56th Street, or online at sunbeltrentals.com.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Gentlemen, are you ready for something beyond the ordinary haircut? At Scissors and Scotch Lincoln, they blend your old school barber feel with your favorite watering hole. Sink into a comfy chair, unwind with a complimentary drink, and let their master barbers handle the rest. It's not just grooming, it's an experience. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, needing to get cleaned up before family comes to town, or just need a little time to yourself, Scissors and Scotch Lincoln delivers sharp style every time. Book now at Scissors and Scotch in Lincoln, just south of 30th and Yankee Hill Road.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Dio Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Dio Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diotech online at diotech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KFM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket. Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back inside Carver Hawkeye Arena. Austin Norman, Nick Sainer with you doing some Nebraska men's basketball post-game coverage. Thanks as always to our great sponsors, UBT, Fly LNK, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, as well as Jack Russell with Farm Bureau Financial Services. I'm Austin. He's Nick. Harrison's holding down the Fort in our 93.7 The Ticket studios. Let's head straight to our starter at Heyman at Jewelers text line. Derek in a car says, any chance the NCAA makes a rule against jump shooters jumping into a defender while putting up a lousy shot with the shot clock being done? If an offensive player initiates the contact, it should be no foul. It's become a joke. There should be a no call at best. Referring, of course, to the one on Sam Hoiberg. Where the offensive player gets in trouble, Nick, is when they jump, right? It's not necessarily legal guarding position unless you're jumping straight up in the air, right? If you jump forward, even if the guy's leaning into you, you're probably going to get a foul, even if it is, a crappy call. It's a bailout. It's not a good look. I don't have all the finer points of officiating down. Even if it wasn't a foul on Sam Hoiberg, it looked like a foul. And something looking like a foul was not justification for it to be a foul. But, as a senior in that moment, right, as Sam Hoiberg, you're against a good score. You want to do everything you can do to contest the shot. You've made your living making hustle plays like that. Sometimes you just get out over your skis, kind of lose sight of the moment. Sam had a frustration foul earlier. That one came at a key moment on Sturts. I don't know if there's a foul or not. I haven't had a chance to go back and rewatch it and relitigate it. Maybe questionable. It looked like a foul. Of all the ones that Nebraska was called for, Iowa wasn't called for. That's one that I kind of throw my hands up and say, well, maybe it wasn't, but it's kind of hard not to call it in that situation. So I get it from both sides.
I also feel like here's the thing is part of it. I do kind of look at Sam or I look at the players and I go, okay, I understand the way the game is being called. Like I'm sure that in those conversations, or I should say in the huddles, like with Fred Hoiberg and stuff, I'm sure that part of the conversation was, hey, look, this is how the game's going to be called. Like this is, you guys are living it, right? Fred's probably sitting there on the sideline going, I'm seeing it, but there's nothing we can do about it. So understand and try to adapt. Now, with that being said, there's also something that I think there's a lot from the get-go in the first half. We started to see the parameters, right? Set the parameters and like figure out the rules. It might vary from officiating crew to officiating crew, but nonetheless, set the rules, set the guidelines, and then let us play within them, right? But the problem with it today for me was that it was completely different in the first half than it was in the second half, in my opinion.
And it felt intentional.
Yes, and we saw a stretch where in the second half, and I talked about the choppiness of the game, we saw a stretch in the second half where, first off, Jeffrey Anderson put the foul sign up, closed fist foul sign, went to the monitor to review it, and it changed it from foul on Iowa to incidental contact. There were 2 times in tonight's game where it went from a foul to incidental contact, no foul, right? Replay review can be great, but also it's similar in football. You slow things down enough, you can make yourself believe anything. And then on top of that is there was a stretch of 1 minute and 26 seconds where there were potentially 6 fouls. It was during the double foul issue. 6 fouls. It ended up being 4 because they initially called a double foul, but Jeffrey Anderson went to the monitor and said, nope, incidental contact, no foul. So it went from 6 to 4. Stoppages like that, you said it. Iowa thrives in those types of situations better than Nebraska does. And in a crucial moment where the crowd was able to kind of rest for a moment, get back ready to go, Nebraska just didn't have an answer for it. I was most frustrated because, like you said, Austin, I agree with you 100%. It felt intentional and it felt influenced by the crowd here, especially in the second half. Because, once again, we could tell that in the first half, they did not have a control on this game from the get-go. They did not have control. So, you pick your battles on, do you want them to get excessive control in the second half, or do you just want to have them let it run wild? That's where it just goes back to officiating has to get control of the game, especially at this magnitude in this environment. The storylines. It's heavily publicized. Get control of the game from the start, and we don't have half of these issues probably.
It feels just like, too, in the big moments, it went Iowa's way, not Nebraska's way. Sturtz pretty clearly went through Sanford's arm on a 3 that they gave him credit for a block after he had a block previously. The masked screen, Sturtz did a good job selling that one. I don't know what Rink Mass is supposed to do on that one. On YouTube, Nelson in Montana, I hope Nebraska can land at least a 6 or 7 seed, right? I hope. Nebraska's fine. The sky's not falling. There's still, a 3, maybe a 4 in some bracketology. Right.
This was a quad 1A loss. If you want to be, if you want to be very specific about this was a quad 1A loss. Top part of the quad 1 area that they're still going to be fine. It's just frustrating the way that it happened because, number one, to Fred Hoiberg's point, is that Nebraska missed some stuff, but then also it felt like it was out of their control.
Yeah. Jason Baird, 4 other teams in the top 25 lost tonight to unranked teams. Don't panic. 89-07. They're going to drop another one at the end of the regular season out on the West Coast. They'll be a 4 seed at best. I still don't know if at best is the way I would phrase that. Cubsker says his concern level is rising to a 4 out of 7. And then, Nick, I think we can really jump off on this. We have a text and a tweet to this effect. We'll start on Twitter. Jay Stoll says, have teams figured Nebraska out, or are they running on fumes? New team, Rink hasn't played a full season in 2 years. 22-4, still amazing accomplishment. Still the 1 goal ahead of them. Get that first ever tourney win. Then we have Kevin in Southwest Lincoln. Bottom line is that Big Ten teams are figuring Nebraska out. No depth and poor rebounding too. Barely playing like a top 20 team in 2026. Numbers would tell you otherwise, is that Nebraska is still playing, at a top 10, top 15 level. because of the way they've performed in losses. Nebraska hasn't gotten blown out. They've only lost those quad 1A games, but it is worth asking the question, what can Nebraska do to adjust? I've mentioned this all year on postgame and on shows. When does Nebraska struggle? It's when big men don't guard or don't have to guard Rink Mast on the perimeter. Rink Mast 4 points tonight is all that he was able to put up. 8 points. Sorry, on 8 points on 4 of 10, 8 points, 8 rebounds. That's inefficient. 0 of 3 from 3. What teams are doing, what they found out, what Iowa did, and what other teams have done, is stick a faster, more athletic player up on Rink Mast and get up into his dribble. Fred Hoiberg mentioned that Iowa did a good job of getting up underneath us. That's what he means when he's talking about that. What Iowa did was they would stick a Cooper Koch on Rink Mast at times, Manu at times as well. Guys that are a little bit more athletic that can hang on the perimeter with Rink Mast. They can get over or through Nebraska's screens. They can recover a little bit quicker, that don't get beat off the bounce. Nebraska wasn't always able to get Alvaro Folgueras switched onto Rink Mast, and instead Nebraska had Folgueras guarding Cale Jacobson. Iowa is more than fine letting Cale Jacobson beat it. Cale's played pretty well, right? I mean, 6 points on 1 of 3 from 2, and he made 1 of his 3 threes. It was 3 of 4 at the free throw line. Took a quick one, hit the buzzer beater, was the only field goal he made, those 3 free throws. Cale Jacobson wasn't able to take advantage of that matchup enough. Nebraska didn't or couldn't get Rink Mast into the post consistently enough to go to work with a height and weight advantage. And you credit Iowa for that, for making that adjustment. You're in Big Ten play. It's going to be physical. Iowa also did a good job of taking away Nebraska's back cuts, right? They've thrived on those since Derek Walker and Keisei Tamanaga were throwing them. Nebraska hasn't been able to get to that. It was a poor shooting night, which meant Iowa could pack the paint a little bit more. Iowa was really good at recovering defensively. And when Nebraska did get its chances, for whatever reason, be it, lack of legs, be it just the normal course of the game and players miss shots sometimes, the few times Nebraska had openings, they couldn't hit the shot. Mast had a couple bounce in and out that nearly went down for him.
Frager had one from the left wing.
Frager had one. Sanford doesn't create much for himself, especially in a clogged paint. So you credit the adjustment that a team like Iowa has made. But now if you're Nebraska, what's the counterpunch? Because you are going through, I would say, probably about a month stretch now where offense hasn't consistently come easy for you like it did early in the year. And of course, that's to be expected. You're in Big Ten play. But how can Nebraska get to kind of what it did against Rutgers, right? And playing through Rink Mast in the paint until it opens up, right? Nebraska needs a breakout game from him from the perimeter to stretch things out. Nebraska has answers. It hasn't gotten to them consistently, or if it has, the shot just hasn't fallen down, which is why you get a day like today where Nebraska's offense averages 0.897 points per possession. Iowa's averages 0.983. Nebraska, I believe, had a better field goal percentage than Iowa by 8%, but Nebraska took 7 fewer shots, only made 1 more than Iowa did, -6 at the free throw line. There are ways that Nebraska can counteract what other teams are doing to them, but it goes hand in hand with better ball handling, better cutting and spacing on offense, and that'll lead to better shots that Nebraska is more likely to get knocked down. But at some point, you got to step back on the gas. You can't put it in cruise control anymore. You can't be dodging and weaving through traffic. You got to find ways, even if you're not on interstate, at least get back on a highway, right? Might not be 3 lanes wide open for you to just cruise on, but you got to at least get back to 2-lane highways and problem solve a little bit. Nebraska's really struggled to get anything easy with any consistency really over the last month, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what I would also add to that is I think tonight we saw Braden Frager be a freshman. Like, I think we're starting to see that a little bit more. There were a couple of instances where, unfortunately, and there was moments in this game where Nebraska needed somebody to have the athleticism of Braden Frager, right? And I think that there were moments also where Fred, towards the end of the game, wasn't necessarily able to trust him because of some of the decisions that he made earlier in the game. We saw that one really disappointing pass that he tried to throw from the right wing, turned around, just kind of blindly threw it over to the left side of the floor, and it got taken away by Iowa. And I believe, if I remember correctly, at that point of the game, it was tied. I think it was during that stretch to where it was tied in the 40s for Nebraska, or at least they were trying to make the comeback down by a couple of points. But ultimately, Nebraska's in a spot right now, Austin, and this will probably be my last thing I say, Harrison, before I go, because I'm struggling with some connection issues. But ultimately, what I was going to say is that naturally, when you look at Nebraska, it's a really, really unfortunate time, because they got to just turn some things around, and I think they'll be okay for the most part. What's up, Nick? Nice to see you. It appears we might have lost Austin for a second.
I'll step in. Just continue your thought.
Yeah, I'm only sitting 50 yards away from him. I can see him right now, and he's still connected. But anyway, what I was going to say is that Nebraska, they got a couple of hopefully get right games, and we're having a lot of conversations about the 7-man rotation and just not enough depth. There's something also to be said about in the regular season. Yeah, you might need some more guys than just what Nebraska currently feels like they can play with. But once you get to tournament time, you got your core, and you're going to have a little bit of rest in between some tournaments and some matchups and things. And I think Fred Hoiberg and his staff, rightfully so, still feel like they're in a pretty good spot with the core that they have. But that doesn't mean that you can't benefit from guys stepping up when they need to.
Before I let you go, were you was it interesting that you didn't see Leo Curtis or Jared Garcia at all tonight? Because it's one of those games. It's one of those games where throw them out there and see what happens.
Absolutely. I think. I don't know if tonight was the night where you can just throw them out there and see what happens. I think it was more Michigan, right, where you were so depleted in terms of health and things that are out of your control. But what I would say is, and this is stuff that, frankly, we got 5 questions with Fred Hoiberg, and I'm not mad at Fred Hoiberg about that. It was just very obvious that he did not have much interest in talking to us tonight. And a couple other people got it. I asked him his last question. I asked him I saw that he got clarification from Jeffrey Anderson on Jamarcus Lawrence's backcourt violation call. I asked Fred, I said, hey, did you get any clarification on that? And he started to go and say, hey, yeah, I was talking to, and then he cut himself off and said, no, Nick, I didn't. And so that was it. And so it was very obvious that I wasn't trying to make a gotcha question out of Fred Hoiberg either, not talking about officiating, but there's also a couple of things that this game, I think, definitely magnified. And one is that if you challenge successfully, you shouldn't lose your challenge. Nebraska, in the crucial moment of the game, at the end of the game tonight, there was a point to where on the Iowa side of the floor, they knocked one out of bounds. It should have been Nebraska ball. The officials got it incorrect, but Nebraska was unable to challenge it because they had already challenged twice in the game. Now, the rules are you have 2 challenges no matter what. If you get it successful, you get to keep your timeouts. Obviously, understandably so. If you lose the challenge, if it's unsuccessful, you have to forfeit a timeout. Nebraska challenged twice. They won both of their challenges, and they weren't able to challenge in one of the most crucial moments of the game when it was a 3-point ball game, and the officials got the call wrong. Nebraska was out of challenges despite winning their 2 challenges earlier in the game. Those types of things, I think, are something that the league overall is going to have to look at and go, you know what, maybe we should make some amends to some decisions here.
I mean, still 22-4, 4 losses to 4 teams that are going to be in the big dance in March. So you got opportunity ahead too.
That's exactly my point. And I know there's probably a lot of texters and listeners right now that are passionate and are probably pissed off. And I'm not going to tell you how to fan, but I am going to say, not trying to pour cold water on your party. But Nebraska, think about what we're having the conversation about right now. We feel like the sky is falling on a 22-4 men's basketball program in Lincoln, Nebraska, a team that's 11-4 in the Big Ten Conference. And at best could still finish 16-4. At best, they can still get a triple bye. Everything that they want is still potentially in front of them. Austin, as we wrap up here in the last couple of seconds, I'm going to get off here with this comment, and I'll let you close out. But basically what I end with is that everything that Nebraska could hope for and still want, maybe not Big Ten regular season champion because Michigan's playing out of their world right now. But for the most part, Nebraska's losses have all been quote unquote quality losses. And I'm not a moral victory guy, but that's what I'm going to leave you with.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a good comment there from Nick to end things off. Nebraska is not the first Big Ten team this year to go through these struggles, right? Illinois had a stretch early in the year. Michigan State is starting to come out of their stretch. Purdue is starting to play a little bit better right now as well after they scuffled for a little while. Michigan's really the only team to not have one of those stretches yet. Maybe it's coming here down the stretch. Maybe it won't. I mean, Michigan is the number one team in Ken Pom for a reason. They absolutely look the part. Nebraska, no, hasn't played perfect basketball, but Nebraska also hasn't gotten blown out this year. You can say Nebraska's been upset 3 times by lower ranked or unranked teams. The way Illinois was playing at the time, I struggle to call that one an upset, although it was at home, so maybe it was. Purdue, that was just a heck of a basketball game, right? Nebraska didn't live up to expectations in the first half, probably exceeded them in the second, and ended up falling just 1 possession short. But no, I ultimately fall on, Nebraska has issues. So do, 360 teams in the country, probably maybe 365 teams in the country. No, Nebraska hasn't played its best basketball, and now's the time if it's going to turn it back on to do it. And I think a big tell for the response of Nebraska and how personally this team takes this loss will be able to be seen in a couple ways. Number one, with a couple straight home games on Saturday and then Wednesday against teams that Nebraska should smack around, right? If Nebraska takes this one personal, they come out on fire. They put together a complete game coming up against Penn State over the weekend and then Maryland in the midweek. That's what good teams do, is they find ways to respond. Yeah, Nebraska's in the midst of a challenging stretch. No, Nebraska hasn't played perfect. But if this team is who it said it was, or we thought it was, through the first 22 games of the year, I would expect a big response from Nebraska over the course of the Saturday game against Penn State and then coming up in 8 days against Maryland. That'll do it for me. I'll say thank you to Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and Farm Bureau Financial Services. Not quite midnight Central Time. I know Nick Wyman's waiting back in studio. Appreciate him and Harrison for pushing the buttons. But for Nick Sainert, this is Austin Norman saying so long from Carver Hawkeye Arena. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.